Hey there friends, what's going on? So in this video, I want to talk about the A major chord and show you a handful of ways you can easily extend and add to and augment this chord. Just by adding a note or two with a finger or two, these are very beginner-friendly ways to sort of get a little bit more mileage out of this chord. So check out the PDF that I've put together. It accompanies this lesson. I'll show you all these shapes I'm going to use, and I'll show you a sort of picture of what my hand looks like from my point of view, as well as the chord chart. It's a great way to sort of have all these shapes and positions handy as you learn these when you're learning other songs, right? So let's dig on into these. So first up, A major chord, right? I'm going to assume you know how to play it. It's basically the thinnest 5 strings, open, second, 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 open. Now, the first thing I'll say, and I covered this in a separate lesson, is you can, instead of putting your fingers in order like that, right? What I like to do is sort of do a triangle shape with my fingers like this, where I basically have my middle and ring fingers down, then I add my index in between. What that does is it lets you cram bigger fingers into a small fret. If you're having trouble fitting your fingers in there, check out that other lesson I did, because that's going to basically work for a lot of what I'm going to show you just as fine. That's the first thing I want to talk about. Now, as far as these voicings, the first one I'll talk about is going from the A major position to an Asus2 to an Asus4, and then back to the regular A, okay? This is probably the first thing I would recommend learning if you're just getting started with this chord and you want to add some fun spice. And what this lets you do is basically all kinds of stuff like that. And you could just take these 3 chord shapes and get into all kinds of different picking patterns. You could do finger style. You could, get whatever sound you want. But I mean, you can do a lot with these 3 building blocks. And all we're doing here for these is basically going to, on the second string, the Asus2 will be leaving the second string open. So it's, right? The second string, the B string, leave it open, just take off our finger and then put our finger back. So get used to going from the A to the Asus2 back to the A. Right? And likewise, the Asus4 is going to be putting our pinky down on the 3rd fret of the second string, the B string, right? Okay? And once you have that one there, you want to, if you want, combine them, right? Go from the A to the Asus4 back to the A to the Asus2 back to the A. And you, again, like I said, you can combine these in all sorts of ways, right? So I'll leave that to you to explore that, but that's the first thing I would recommend, is getting comfortable with those 2 positions. The next one I would talk about is the A7 chord. So what this one is going to be is similar to the Asus2. We're just going to take a finger off. We're going to take off the 3rd string. Okay? So in this case, we have open, second, open, second, open. That's an A7, right? Now this is typically going to be used right before we go to a D, right? It resolves nicely to a D. So a good exercise for this one could be just play a D, right? You get that nice tension, resolve, right? So that's one, is the A7. Now, there's another way to play the A7, which is this way. Basically, normal A chord, but we're going to put our pinky down on the 3rd fret of the 1st string. Okay, this is a G note. Just like the open 3rd string is a G note. There's an octave apart. You actually could do the A7 by doing with the 3rd string open and the 1st string on the 3rd fret. That's an A7 as well, right? So you have your regular A, you have the A7 with the open 3rd string, then you have the A7 with the 3rd fret on the 1st string, okay? So that's going to be an A7 chord. Likewise, it's going to transition well to the D, right? So that's one little one you want to have in your bag of tricks. So there's 2 ways to play the A7 there, right? Now, what about this one? I've always referred to this as the A add 6, meaning we're going to add the 6th note of the A scale. This is an F sharp, okay? So basically, that's our regular A. How I like to play this one is you could put your pinky down on the 1st string, 2nd fret, and then get used to going back to the A. That's kind of cramped for me. What I'll sometimes do is just sort of lean my fingers down like that and get the ring finger to touch the first string. Okay? Now, this is one, you don't use it a ton, but lots of songs will sort of have a melody note that's running up on the first string from the open to second to third. Right? And you could do that with the A chord, sort of as the underlying chord. Right? Again, not used a ton, but it's a great one to have handy in your bag of tricks as well. What's another shape? How about the A major 7? So this one is going to use the major 7th, the 7th tone of the major scale in addition to the regular A major notes, right? So this is going to be open, second, first, second, open. Now, a lot fewer songs use this chord than the regular A7, right? But it is a good one to have handy because this major 7 shape, you'll use it in lots of stuff, right? So if you take like Bob Dylan's song, A Simple Twist of Fate, even though I think it's an E, basically you have this transition of going from an A, we sat together in the park, to an A major 7, while the evening sky grew dark, then to an A7, and 'twas then that he felt a spark, then to a D, I think, shiver in his bones. So what's going to happen there is you get that descending sound from the A to the A major 7 to the A7, right? That third string, right? Hear that? So that's your A major 7. Again, it's not used too often, but it's a good one to know as well. Now, as far as other ones, let's look at the sort of lower end of the scale. Now, what I'll recommend here is playing a chord like this, where instead of using 3 fingers, we're going to use 1 finger. And I have a separate lesson for this as well, where we're basically going to bar the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th string. We're not going to play the 1st string here. Just the middle 4 strings is where we want to be. What you do this because it frees up these 2 fingers here to do other stuff. For example, you could do this. So what I'm doing here, I'm not sure what to call this chord. It's almost like a D with an A bass. It almost sounds like an Asus4, right? But you have this F sharp you're adding right here. Basically, the middle finger is on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, and your ring finger is on this F sharp of the 4th string, right? This is a handy thing to practice, right? You also could do those notes individually, right? And you also could do the ring finger up here on the 3rd string instead. So again, any chord, any song that you're going to have this voicing, that's a handy little thing to add in there, right? I think of Sturgill Simpson and Turtles All the Way Down, right? I've seen Jesus play with fire in a lake of something that I was standing in. So I haven't practiced that song recently, so I'm rusty. But that little voicing right there is going to have this A voicing with your ring finger on the 3rd string and your middle finger on the 2nd string. 4th fret, 3rd fret. That's going to be one. One other one is the A over C sharp. So basically, this is an A, right? Sometimes you're going to see A over C sharp, which means you want your C sharp as your bass note. This is a C sharp note, and you just basically put that beneath your 2nd, 3rd, and 4th strings as they're normally played. Now, when do you use this chord? This chord's usually used when you're walking down between a D and an A to a B minor. Or maybe you're going the other direction, from a B minor to an A up to a D, right? You get the descending bass note, or ascending. But yeah, so that's a good one too. And then finally we get to this sort of, if you're just doing a power chord A, right, on the 5th and 4th string, you can get a nice little simple bluesy sound by just adding your your middle or ring finger to the 4th fret of the 4th string. That's one little mini augmentation you could do. And that same augmentation, just while I'm on it, could be used for the E major power chord, right? Thickest two strings, that is, of the E major chord. Go to A. Back to E. Back to A, right? All right, so basically that's going to be it for my little thing here. Check out the PDF, like I said. It'll show you all these chord shapes I just showed you with pictures. And again, this is just a handy thing to keep in mind because dozens and dozens and dozens of songs that I've learned recently will use some of these shapes. And I usually in each of my lessons will teach you each shape that as it comes up. But I figured I'd put together a single lesson to talk about these different ways to spice up the A major chord. So I hope this was helpful for you. Good luck with your playing. Let me know if you have any questions, and thanks for watching. Bye-bye.